My first job was working in a medical warehouse.
Yes.
Where they would store patient information. Because back in the day, information was not stored on computers, it was stored in paper files in manila folders.
Yeah.
And paper files take up a lot of room, and sometimes doctors' offices don't have that. So they would send all of the patient information to the medical warehouse for storage. And my main job was taking care of that information, making sure it's stored properly.
I mean, that was one of the reasons why you had to schedule appointments. Also, so the doctor's office wasn't packed with people.
Yeah.
But also so that they had time to get your records shipped back.
That was my main job. And we had rows and rows and rows of patient files. You needed ladders sometimes to climb up to the second floors.
Was it like the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, only with files instead of boxes?
I couldn't... Maybe not so much, but yes. At the beginning, no. But by the end, when I left...
Oh my god.
Kind of yes.
Oh god.
You know what kind of stuff I found in those files? Can't tell you, patient confidentiality.
Yeah, I was about to say, you can't tell me anyway, so why would I even ask?
Yeah, there was a funny moment where I said to my coworker, "Hey, there's a lot of female names in this department." And he says, "Yeah, that's the OBGYN department." And I said, "What's an OBGYN?" And that was the day I found out about vagina doctors. I didn't know vagina doctors existed. Why don't I have a penis doctor? Anyway.
This might be just me being ignorant as fuck, but I feel like a vagina is more complicated than a penis.
Perhaps. I don't know. I feel like the penis has got a couple of moving parts.
Jesus Christ. How does that bone get in there?
Oh, we don't even know. It's a mysterious ghost bone. We stored the patient information on shelves, and it was fairly mundane. Sometimes they would ask me for a file, and I'd say, "Nope, can't find it." And sometimes
Did you actually not find it, or were you taking a nap?
I can't keep track of all this stuff. There were so many shelves, and if a file got misfiled in the wrong department, I would never find it again.
So you admit you were inept.
Yes.
You contacted me one day. I think we were gonna hang out or something, and you're like, "Oh, by the way, they're throwing out a bunch of medical stuff at my at where I work."
Yep.
I was like, "Ooh, I like dumpster diving," so we went over there and we were just digging through the dumpster, and there's like surgical tables in there and like microscopes and all kinds of cool stuff, and I'm like, "Man, look at all this cool stuff!" So I'm just like grabbing stuff and bringing it home with me, and I found this really cool thing. It was made of stainless steel. I'm like, "Oh, this is awesome!" Brought it home, and I'm like, "Mom, look at this thing I found. Isn't it really cool?" And she goes, "Yeah, that's a speculum." Where did you get that?
That's the vagina spreading tool.
Yeah, I was real embarrassed.
We had a lot of knickknacks there. One day I got hit in the face with a fake breast.
Is this like a bag of saline?
I don't know what it was. Maybe they use it for checking for breast cancer. I couldn't say. All I knew was I got hit in the face with a tit once.
Just give me a rough breakdown of what your daily schedule would have been like there.
I don't really want to do that because there are some times where I would go in and hide for a couple hours. No one cared. It was a small little department. As long as I wasn't causing trouble most days.
Yeah.
As long as I got my job done. They didn't look into what I was doing too much.
I have had jobs like that.
Sometimes I had to make work for myself. I think the files would look better on this side of the shelving. So I would spend the entire day moving the files from one shelf to the other just because I needed something to do.
Gotta look busy.
Sometimes you just have downtime like that. But other days I did actually do a job. And this lasted for a while until they started doing digitization. So we had all these files that were lying around, but we wanted to use digital files. So it means we're going to have to do data entry. So that became my job.
Oh, I do not like doing data entry.
But it was just me. How can I type in all these files by myself? I can't. So we're going to have to hire a bunch more high school students.
Woo!
So they hired 3 or 4 high school students, and we are in the warehouse. And some of the hires were questionable. The people that added on to do more data entry may not have been as mature as me.
Mm-hmm.
There was the one guy and the one girl that they started a thing. And then it broke apart, and it became very awkward because they were sitting right next to each other.
Yeah.
Doing data entry for 8 hours. With all the high school drama that it comes with it, yes. Having this many kids around is never a good thing. One time there were bees outside, a nest, so I took a can of bee spray and sprayed it all down, and a couple minutes later, one of my coworkers came out. Did you just spray a bunch of bee spray outside? And I said, yes, why? You sprayed a bunch of bee spray into the ventilation system, and now everyone in the office is choking.
On tonight's episode of Mike Tries to Kill His Coworkers, Mike the Terrorist.
Okay, that actually was kind of a hazardous job. There was, like I said, there was a lot of patient files there, and they just kept coming in every time we absorbed a new department.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually it got to the point where we didn't have any shelving for it, so we started stacking them on pallets and stacking the pallets on scaffolding. And every time they needed a patient file, we'd have to grab the forklift, take down the pallet full of boxes.
Oh, good lord.
And find the file. And frequently taking down these pallets put a lot of wear and tear on them.
Yeah?
And they fell apart occasionally, sometimes while they were holding a lot of weight, sometimes while there were other people standing close to underneath them.
That's fun.
And you'd have to dive out of the way to avoid being crushed occasionally. You think you shouldn't be standing underneath a forklift while it's moving like that. But we're high school students who are stupid.
Yeah, exactly. And you've got a forklift certification.
I didn't at the time. So we were doing data entry, and one day, a new hire comes in, and he is not a high school student. He is 40 years old.
You don't know, he may have been held back.
Okay, fair enough. But it seemed weird at the time. So he was working with us for a couple of weeks, and then one day, he was just gone. And I asked the boss what happened to him, and he said nothing. So, being ever the inquisitive child I was, I typed his name and our location into Google to see what would pop up. A news article popped up.
Oh, was it talking about how he was a local hero does good?
He was formerly a firefighter.
Oh, so local hero does good.
Who had been suspended from his job.
So local hero doesn't do as good.
Terminated from his position because he had been in possession of child pornography.
So local hero is bastard.
And while he was awaiting trial, apparently they thought it would be a fine idea to have this guy working in the back.
We'll just put him into an unsupervised office with a bunch of teenagers. He's only on trial for having child pornography. What could go wrong?
He just disappeared one day as he was convicted.
Gee.
It was definitely an interesting time.
Seems like a really bad decision was made on someone's part.
That whole place was cobbled together from bad decisions.
Was that the worst job you've ever had?
No. I've had plenty of terrible jobs, including jobs that are funny to talk about, like when I was a cheese recycler.
The cheese recycler.
Sometimes pizzerias store their cheese and don't use it, and it's been sitting in storage for many, many years.
Yes.
But that's still good cheese.
It's perfectly good cheese. You just gotta wipe the mold off it. Cheese is mostly mold.
It's not moldy because it's been frozen for 8 years. It just needs to be repasteurized.
Exactly!
So we would take these giant frozen bricks of cheese and put them on a conveyor belt so they could be sent to a third-rate pizzeria.
You forgot an important step there. You put the cheese on the conveyor belt, it gets mushed up, and then repasteurized, and then sold.
I don't remember the process. All I remember is the conveyor belt takes it away from me.
Great compartmentalization, Mike. Yeah. I was just following orders, he says. when the cheese court comes for you. He was a quiet man. I don't really know what else to say about him. Kept to himself. Very nice.
At first they came for the pastrami and I said nothing. That's terrible. That's terrible.
Is it too soon?
Is it? I don't think there's ever going to be a good time to make fun of the Holocaust. I was also a temp worker for 5 years.
You did the cheese recycling for 5 years?
I did the cheese recycling for a week.
Oh, okay.
I also worked at a temp job for 5 years making cardboard boxes.
I vaguely remember you telling me about that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember you telling me that it was a temp job that you were at for 5 years.
I don't know what kind of bureaucratic bullshit they pulled to make that happen.
If we keep him as a temp, we don't have to pay him insurance.
That's exactly it, yes.
Most of the jobs I've haven't been terrible. There have just been parts of them that I really didn't like. One of the worst jobs I had was fixing pressure washers. It wasn't just like the hand pressure washers. It was also like car wash ones that washed semi-trucks.
I guess you can't use a car wash machine.
Yeah, you can't really drive a semi-truck through a car wash. It's too big.
Makes sense.
So I had to do that, and I did that job for like 2 or 3 months. And then one day they were like, okay, well, your temp job here is over. They didn't tell me it was a temp job.
I thought it was gainfully employed!
Yeah, they didn't tell me until like the last day there. They were like, oh yeah, by the way, this was a temp job the entire time, and we've decided not to hire you on. And I'm like, cool, guess I'm looking for a job again.
All right.
Which I guess was fine, because I didn't really like that job very much.
Would you describe it as a wash?
Oh, God. Damn it, Mike. I think one of the worst jobs I ever had is right after I got laid off from the post office doing custodial work. I got another custodial job at this other place. They made like cereal boxes and all kinds of stuff.
You applying for my job?
Yes, I was a scab.
Yeah. Let me tell you about the time I stabbed Zach for crossing the picket line.
Yeah, that would be a much more interesting story than me talking about my terrible job. They micromanaged everything when I was doing this custodian job, and because there were like rolls of paper everywhere. I don't know if you know this, but when you work around a lot of paper, the entire environment is very dry because the paper just sucks up all of the moisture.
I've worked at a paper recycling plant before, so yes.
It sucked. I didn't like that job. So I just quit.
No?
And one of my roommates at the time was just like, do you have another job lined up? I'm like, no. No, I don't. I just hated working there. Do you have any money saved? No, not really. I'm not saying you're stupid or anything, but I would never have the balls to just quit a job without having like 7 different options lined up. And I'm just, by the seat of my pants, I don't care.
Yeah.
That's how I've usually done things. It always works out somehow.
Whatever. I'll just live underneath a bridge. I don't care.
Yeah, it's gonna work out. Something will happen that will work out because I'm going to do something.
I don't think that should be a fallback plan that you recommend.
It works for me. I'm not gonna recommend it to everybody.
Remember, if you don't like your job, quit. It'll work out. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's probably really bad advice to give people. Jeez, Zach, come on. Actually think for once. Holy crap.
But it's worked out for you, at least.
It worked out for me. I don't necessarily recommend it.